OverDress! Finally tomorrow, or rather 4 a.m. on Tuesday, Central European time. We will find out what OverDress really is going to be. If you want a live English translation, because apparently the English side isn't doing it until Friday, you can check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DifferentFight, where I'll be doing the restream in English for the live stream and translating everything that is revealed as we go. Don't worry, of course, on this channel, everything will be covered. And of course, you know, y'all know me already. I love this game, and my mission is to relay this information and get as many new people into the game as possible. So I'll be probably dedicating most of this coming week to OverDress. And so let's get started. We'll get started with OverDress right now and talk about my wish list of what I hope that, at least in the long term, OverDress will bring to us over the years. So first things first on my wish list, if you've seen my V-Series review video, you'll know this one already. No more gifts, please. Gifts are a very going first-sided mechanic, and I hope that we do away with it, and whatever mechanic that comes in does not favor going first, but rather needs to be fought for. And you know, hopefully both players have to be a grade 3. A going second mechanic isn't bad if both players have to fight for it. It's pretty cool. I like that. Legion had that and Stride had that, and that was great. So please, let's stop with the going first favoritism. That'd be really cool. In terms of the actual mechanic, I would like to see them explore orders more. So I feel like orders are a very unexplored mechanic from the V-Series, and it feels like there's still so much potential for it. And I personally think, thinking about the name like OverDress, right? I feel like it's gonna have something to do with equipment. My kind of idea is that it's gonna be something to do with equipment. Maybe, let's say, for example, the main grade 3 says something like, when you ride it, you can search your deck for like a specific order card, or any order card for that matter, but then you can, like, let's say, only play order cards of that grade when both players are at that grade, or something like that, you know? I would be pretty cool with that existing. And then like the order card says something like, you cast it once per turn, and you give a bunch of effects to that Vanguard, and then the Vanguard says something like, when it receives effects by an order card, it also does this and that, you know? So like basically having, like, imagine like a unit, like whatever kind of unit, you know, a robot, a knight, a dragon, whatever, and they just equip things onto them. So the order cards are like equipments that they put onto their, you know, onto their bodies basically, and those equipments are their extra effects, like whether that's like extra power, extra critical, extra drive, extra whatever, you know, whatever they do. I feel like that'd be pretty cool, and they can make them be clan specific easily. That way, you know, they don't do just generic ones all the time and then basically just water down all the clan identity like they did with the V-Series. I think that'd be pretty cool overall, honestly. So I kind of hope for some sort of equipment mechanic. They could even make like an equipment deck if they want to, but that kind of, you know, goes back to the sort of G-Zone type feel where, you know, you have to have an extra deck of cards prepared. So maybe they won't explore that, but we'll find out. I feel like it would be pretty cool though, so we'll see what they do with that. But that's just my kind of potential idea, I guess. Another thing on my wish list, this was the same, you know, going into any other format in the game, which is no new clans, please. 24 is already a lot. Like, they barely managed to support 24 clans as it is. Adding a 25th is not a good idea. So please, no more new clans. I will allow it if they really do make a new clan, but I personally really hope they don't. Gear Chronicle was really cool as a main character clan, but we can reuse one of the current ones. Like, just make it a Novas, Narukami, Pale Moon. I don't really care what the main character is. Like, they'll manage to make it cool and generic enough anyway, but please, no more new clans. Like, 24 is already too much to balance. If anything, what would be cool to see is more like nation-based support. So this is something that G explored, which is like, you know, cards that you can use in the entire nation. So like you have like a Stargate card that like Link Joker, Novas, and DP can all use that one card. So I would actually like more nation-based support. So hopefully they kind of explore that theme as well. More interesting card design and clan uniqueness, please. The clan selection has shown us that they can be very cool with their effects and very flavorful, and I hope that they continue that as well. It's also cool to have boss units that do stuff on Rearguard Circle too, kind of like what Ashley did in clan selection. And I really like the design of like Gastille that basically says like your opponent chooses which effects you can do and stuff like that. So please explore that kind of space as well, and just kind of try out different like funky things. Like, trust me, people don't really have a bad reaction when Bushro does something crazy with a card, like some kind of really weird thing that's never been explored before. Most of us really like that, so feel free to explore that. Honestly, just feel free to explore it. I personally don't care about this too much myself, but I know a lot of people do. The return of lore. I think a lot of people miss the like lore segment when new cards would be revealed, and hopefully, you know, if they're exploring like new types of units and like new inhabitants of Cray or whatever, that they kind of do that as well. I would personally really like that if they can actually kind of bring back lore. I think it'd be nice, even though I personally don't care about that much. I know a lot of people do, and you know, that's enough to make me want it as well. More defensive options and less power creep. Please, for the love of God, I've already said this enough times, but like the addition of G guards was one of the peak times of G as a era. So please, more defensive options, less offensive power creep. Just stop with the plus 10k to the front row. We don't need any more of that. Do more of like extra shield, more defensive power, please. Anything, just more defense, more defense, more defense. That's all I can really ask for. More clauses that don't make something happen when somebody's going first. So what I mean by this is like the Legion clause. Both players have to be at grade 3 in order to perform Legion. The Stride clause for until the V series. Both players need to be at grade 3 in order to stride. You know, the G-Guard clause. Both players need to be at grade 3 in order to G-Guard. So please continue that. It is overall healthy for the game. We don't like dying on turn 3 when we're sitting on our grade 2. We don't really like that. No, actually we don't. Actually, we would really prefer if the mechanic said that, you know, both players need to have reached a certain stage before it can be used. And please, like, if you're gonna make advanced versions of your mechanic, like how, like, you know, strides had like GB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like, please let it be like that kind of increment. So the more you use a certain mechanic every turn, the more you advance into a goal, rather than just like acquire 3 gifts in 1 turn. Pass, you know, like, please, please, please. Boss units not being akin to VRs is something that I kind of hinted at in the V series review. So please, just like more boss units that aren't like, or just in general, just don't put boss units as VRs or VR equivalents. Let them be triple rares. Let the supporting cards be VRs, just like how, you know, like in G, the GRs were strides. They were supporting cards, you know, they were cards you went into as an option. Let that come back and do away with like boss units being the main high rarity, because it's just annoying. It's just really, it feels like it messes around with the market, and it's just doesn't feel that healthy overall either. Overall, please do less power creep. If anything, if you're gonna power creep, let it be on a yearly increment, not on a set by set increment, you know? Let it so that like every set released from like March 2021 to March 2022 be on a similar power level. And then April 22 comes up and it goes up a little bit. And then everything that releases from April 2022 until March 2023 follows that similar power level for every clan. It won't be boring. Trust me, it won't be boring. It's going to be much better if every clan can have a similar power level and you don't have to like build a deck in March to then build a new deck in April because, oh, the new deck in April is just way better than your deck in March. Like, please do away with that power creep. Some power creep is fine. Obviously, if you're not going to rotate this game, especially, you know, power creep is going to be necessary, but like even Yu-Gi-Oh does it better at this point. It feels like Yu-Gi-Oh's power creep is like, again, once a year. Like the general like level of power for that year is the same, and then next year it just kind of goes up a little bit, but only a little bit that some people don't notice. You know, it's like 1 extra negate or whatever, you know? So please, for Vanguard, kind of let's go back to that too. Now, talking a bit more about card design, I really liked the fact that like with the new Gastille, for example, they really added more interactions that your opponent can have a word in as well. So like your opponent choosing which of these effects you resolve. That's actually quite cool. So more interactions would be pretty nice as well. If there is to be no rotation, I think they're gonna have to do something about gifts, you know, whether they cap it at like 1 gift per turn or whatever, which kind of ruins decks like Uranus, or they make exceptions to that. They have to do something about gifts, otherwise like the first year of support of OverDress will just kind of fall flat and not do much compared to a lot of the end of V series decks. Like they would have to make a nuclear restriction list to actually make it so that like the playing field can be equal enough for the OverDress support to actually be relevant enough and actually be played enough. Otherwise, we're gonna have a repeat of like basically the first year of the game where like people didn't play limit break decks because the end was just so much better, and that is clearly a problem. I think most people do prefer a soft rotation, myself included, you know, something like, you know, like clan selection onwards, but you can like take a bunch of like old triggers and stuff into your deck still as well, because I feel like otherwise, like I said, it's gonna like, if you do a hard rotation, you have the problem of having like just 4 clans at the start, which is super boring, or if you do like too soft of a rotation, then like the new stuff isn't relevant enough. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. You know, they could just not rotate at all and just wing it like they did with G, where, you know, the new decks weren't that great at the start but became really good over time. They could do that, you know, that could be fine, and maybe drop a nuclear ban list somewhere along the lines just to hamper down the kind of level, you know, just to put down the power creep level 2 clan selections, and then we're going to be kind of okay. So that might happen, might not, who knows. I think that's by far the biggest question in a lot of people's minds right now. New cast, no more nostalgia, please. Like, I know they're announcing the anime as well on Tuesday, but please, like, stop with the, like, continuous return to, like, Aichi and friends. Like, even in G, they had to reference the old characters and let them shine sometimes. Just stop it. Like, I'm fine with not seeing Chrono and Henry and Rin, etc., like, anymore, even though they're some of my favorite characters, if it means that we can have a new cast of characters and new units to get attached to. Especially, like, for us older players, like, sure, we like seeing the old stuff, but think of the new generation. Think of the new generation of players that will get into this game now thanks to OverDress, like the kids, or like even like the adults, everyone that gets into it, that like they don't have any attachment to Blaster Blade or anything, they just want to get attached to the new stuff, and so let them be attached to the new stuff. Like, I feel like having them get attached to like old stuff all of a sudden, like they did with the reboot, just isn't that good in my opinion. So please just forget nostalgia, just pretend that Blaster Blade and Aichi and stuff just don't exist, and just focus on the new cast, kind of like what Yu-Gi-Oh did with Zale, honestly. Also, no more busted promos, please. This should definitely be a lesson from V-Series. More Blitz orders. I think, you know, that was something people were expecting, more Blitz orders, like just to explore defensive options in the game as well, but they didn't really do anything with it for whatever reason after introducing them. So hopefully when OverDress comes, we're gonna get more Blitz orders that give us more defensive options in the opponent's turn too. Now, another one that I think some people will agree, some won't, is I want both starters and triggers to have unique effects again. You know, like I said in the V-Series review, your starter was part of your main strategy in a lot of decks, and one of the best things about G for me is that every single trigger by the end of it had an effect. So it felt like every single card in your deck had an effect. Like, it wasn't just there to be like a meat shield, but sometimes you would look at a trigger and be like, do I guard with you right now or keep you in hand because your effect is so good, you know? Like, that's something that's great about Premium, is that they're printing like the new scale of power and shield triggers with effects, you know, like strike crits and like, you know, the GB1 insult crits and stuff like that. Like, please continue doing that. Like, the fact that you put PGs on draws is a good indicator already. Please put more effects on your triggers. Now, I personally would like, this might be bit of a hot take or something, not even a hot take, or a bit of a reach, is that I would like an online simulator for whatever the new rotation is or whatever the new format is, because like back when they were developing Cardfight Online, there was a problem that essentially, like, you know, the Lightworks bailed because it was taking them too many resources and they were making so much more money from Fake Grand Order, so they basically just bailed on Bushiroad. But this time around, you know, things have changed. Bushiroad has a lot of good partners in the software development industry, you know? Like, look at Vanguard Zero with Game Studio. Look at, you know, like D4DJ or like Bang Dream. They have partners helping them create those things. So it's like, why, I don't see why not just like touch base with those developers and have us like give us an actual proper TCG simulator, you know, that we can play the actual game with. Because especially during these times of, you know, remote fight and everything where we can't actually see our friends and locals, it would be really, really cool to finally get something like that, you know, because it just feels like it's, you know, this might take away from some of the Vanguard Zero player base, you know, I don't even doubt that, but I think a lot of us would appreciate if they finally gave us a proper online simulator to go with the new franchise as well. Also, more transparency, please. You know, like, I don't like that we had to wait 6 months to find out anything about OverDress right now. Like, it would have been nice to get at least some hints. Like, I'm not asking for them to give us the entire story or like tell us everything all the time, but at the very least, like, hint towards the news. Like, give us something to like think about as we're approaching the date, because it feels like they were better at this in the past than now, and usually these things get better over time, so kind of weird. Also, in terms of power level and flavor design, I would really like them to be more in line with clan selection. I feel like clan selection was so great, like it feels so flavorful, the power level is just right. You know, I would have loved for the game to be more of this power level for a longer period of time, but you know, I really hope that that is an indication of things to come for OverDress, and if we can stay to that, it's going to be really, really nice. And the final thing, because I already talked about like boss units with regard effects, for me is either bring back stands, or why not explore a new trigger type? You know, you're calling this the Vanguard 2.0 project presentation. I think if you're calling something 2.0, you can afford to be a bit crazy with the new stuff, you know. I don't think anybody would complain about a new trigger type as long as every clan has access to it, you know. When fronts were first revealed, people were kind of like, whoa, but then it didn't really end up being that much of a impact, I guess. But I feel like most people would like a new trigger type, you know, even if it's not that great. Like, people would still just run crits and heals and draws, but you know, at least some people would have the choice to run whatever that new trigger type is. And feel like it'd be pretty cool, you know, explore those new game design choices. I think a lot of us are waiting for something really refreshing. And honestly, that's about it. That's all I really have to say in terms of my OverDress wishlist. So, you know, I'm more excited to see what they actually reveal. You know, these are my expectations, these are my kind of wishes more than expectations, but we've known so little that like I don't really have anything to expect, but rather I have only things to wish for and hope for the best, you know. So yeah, you'll see my coverage of the reveal on my Twitch channel and then immediately on this YouTube channel afterwards as well. I'll post plenty of like, you know, content for beginners and stuff like that. So if you have friends that are going to get into the game thanks to OverDress, then, you know, definitely kind of point them here, because I'll definitely be making a lot of beginner friendly content again in order to help the new players get into the game as well and, you know, enjoy Vanguard with OverDress. Hopefully it's going to be a very welcoming environment. But on that note though, I'm going to call it here. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm really hyped for OverDress. We're less than a day away from the actual announcement, so I'm super hyped, and hopefully you guys are too. But on that note though, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.